Hi everyone, this is Robin, and I just wanted to give you a January update for the tarot reading that I gave myself in the first day of the 31 Days of Tarot Challenge uh, for quarter one. So it's only the first month of the first quarter, but already I have some thoughts on the card that I drew for this quarter, the King of Cups. And this is the Kitty Kane Tarot. And I wanted to talk about what I'm finding about what I'm learning about with the King of Cups. So the way that I see the court cards, um, most specifically the Queen and the King, right, is I see the Queen as a sort of personal manifestation into the creator of the suit, into someone who has self mastery. And so it's sort of like a wholeness of the suit. And then the kings I see as someone who has taken that self ownership and self mastery and personal wholeness and then expanded outward into the world around them to create something even larger in tandem with the universe and with the other creators in the world around them. So I was throughout December and early January, I was drawing the Queen of Cups a lot. Uh, and that I related to personal, uh, personal emotional developments, personal, emotional healing, emotional self mastery. I was focusing a lot on reparenting, and I had several astral or pathworking visions about healing my inner self, my inner child self, um, envisioning ways that I could reparent myself and give that sort of nurturing love to myself. And I identified that with the Queen of Cups. And now the King of Cups, at least as it has applied to me in January, um, I am making a lot of discoveries. Um, Synchronistically, right across from me, there's a dry or there's a what is it a, a detergent, a laundry detergent, and it says free and clear. Well, that's kind of how I feel about the King of Cups in this month. So once that internal work is done, and once you have unblocked your own emotions, whenever you have felt and allowed yourself to feel everything, you sort of you look at your behaviors or you look at what you want in life, and then you see what's blocking you, and you say, okay, well, what's behind that block? Um, and then you go, okay, well, what's behind that block? And eventually you get back um, to an instance, a first formative instance of like a often in a childhood um, memory, a sense of hurt or betrayal, or a way that you internalized into yourself some kind of pain that then got stuck, and and you kind of adapted that into your sense of who you are. And the Queen of Cups is very much, in my understanding, about delving back into those places, and she is able to bring compassion to them in order to release them so that they no longer have to inform who you are. You can know yourself now as someone who is more than just those feelings of hurt or betrayal. Um, you can now, uh, if you, it's sort of like antibodies, where the now you know whenever you encounter this particular pain or this particular hurt, you know, with the case of antibodies and a virus or a bacteria, now your body knows how to fight it. right? So I feel like learning compassion for yourself and others is kind of that way. It's learning how to acknowledge and see these core or these very deep wounds, and and be able to bring the element of water, the to bring compassion to them, to allow them to flow and change again. They can be changeable. And once that work is done, now you can bring it to your outside world, which is the King of Cups. And you can focus on outside world mastery, like yourself and your environment, yourself and the others around you, in tandem, in community, in communion. I feel like the King of Cups is very much a card about communion, yourself and deity, you know, source, yourself and source. Um, the King of Cups very much understands the concept of unity and oneness, I believe, and that everything is connected with love. And what I've been thinking about the King of Cups in January, um, first, I started out January feeling a lot of separation, actually. I felt a lot of separation with regards to my my social situations. You know, I felt very lonely and I felt undervalued. Um, and I started out January feeling very uh, separated in my job sense. I felt like I had to hide that I am autistic, and that that affects my my work in particular ways. I felt that I had to hide my needs and my voice, my ability to communicate, because I feared very strong feelings getting stuck again, like they had before, you know, in those early formative years. I feared the conflict of uh, something very very strong and very direct, and um, a sort of, I mean, something very strong and direct, that sort of confrontation. Um, if that emotional experience was to me overwhelming, again, I feared that it would become another block and I would be more stuck, uh, and that it would cause a lot of pain again. However, what I've been finding this month in particular is that uh, that doesn't have to be the case. And I've been finding that I've, in little moments and little acts, first of desperation, you know, because of the survival mindset. And then as as I worked on myself and as I worked on my emotions, things changed gradually and gradually and more gradually, until I was able to react to my world more consciously. I was able to express my feelings in my workplace or in my home environment more effectively, more with a sense of goodwill, or at least a hope for goodwill. You know, you don't have to know the outcome, and you don't have to focus on how your expression is received. You only have to bring yourself and your truth to speak or to communicate in however you communicate type, um, uh, text to voice, um, any sort of kind of communication sign. Um, all you have to do is to communicate your truth as clearly and uh, non-judgmentally as possible, as from that dialectic behavioral therapy calls it the wise mind, um, where your logical intellect and your emotional intellect are in communion. There's the Venn diagram of the emotional intellect in a circle, and the logical intellect in a circle, and then they overlap, and then that uh, in that space of intersection is the wise mind. Um, and knowing that you are of your whole self, you are neither your thoughts nor your emotions, but you can take both into consideration before you act. And in that way, you can harness your creative power and what you want to manifest into your life, what um, your soul self, who you are, who you, I was going to say who you want to be, and then my soul self is like, who you are. um, but when you speak from that place, you uh, you create the reality that you desire. And I found in January, I was able to speak from that place more and more. And in speaking from that place, I was able to, I was pleasantly surprised. I talked about coming out as autistic at work in another video, and I feel like I went a little bit too deep. Even my voice changed. Whew, but whenever grounding is great. I went all the way back. But I talked about coming out as autistic at work, and how I was pleasantly surprised at how people, my supervisors and their supervisors and HR all interacted um, with the problems that I was having, and with me telling them that I am autistic and that I have particular needs according to my disability, in order to complete the work that they expect me to. And they emphasized the importance of communication. For the health of the company, whenever communication breaks down is when people take disciplinary action, of course, because or they someone has to be let go from the company. They say whenever it's whenever communication stops that blockages form, and then that breeds resentment, and then that breeds more problems and more problems, uh, kind of in a self-sustaining way. And I feel like that's the same thing with regards to personal mindsets, with it, like in the case of trauma sometimes, suffering. Whenever you've known a lot of suffering, whenever you've encountered personal trauma, um, uh, because of the mechanism of trauma kind of storing emotions that are overwhelming to address later, it sort of creates a temporary block. But there's this, and then until that block is unblocked, there's this kind of back and forth with yourself of like, for your ultimate well-being, you need to unblock and clear that, uh, to get back to that changeable state instead of that stuck in time state, that like snapshot memory, um, of a particular trauma, to bring it back to this ability to change and flow. Um, but whenever you have that snapshot, whenever you have that blockage, a lot of times things appear to you, and to that sort of frozen in time mindset, that the trauma is always present. And if the trauma is always present in the background, you have that hypervigilance. And with that hypervigilance, you sort of think that everything is out to get you. So you adopt a pessimistic mindset, um, of that of everything is going to go poorly anyway. So why should I care? All I need to focus on is survival now. Self protection, self defense. I need to protect myself because I am always under fire. I am always in danger because of that personal blockage, um, that has not that has temporarily lost the ability to flow. And I feel like this month, uh, I've come to understand more things about acting in good faith. Um, I kept receiving messages from the deities that I was speaking to, in December and in January, about trust. And then I received messages about faith. And at first I didn't understand what they meant by that, trust and faith. And I related it to my experiences of trauma. And I thought, but how could I trust if, formative experiences? How could I trust and have faith if internalized beliefs? So, and then that brought me to the Queen of Cups modus of going in and filtering out. And then that brought me to now, with my internal work done, or at least having progressed, with my internal work having progressed, then moving to the King of Cups, of now I can bring my change of modus, my change, and my new once again ability to flow, to act in good faith, and to accept change, and to act consciously from that wise mind of knowing that everything is temporary, and that I am neither my thoughts nor my emotions. I am something deeper. And from that state of stillness and ultimate potentiality, then I can accept all that flows by and around and through me, including my workplace, including everyone that I encounter. It can all flow, without internalizing, without feeling like I need to internalize it or to change myself. I don't need to permanently change myself in any way because I am allowing constant change. So, yeah, that's about what I wanted to say about the King of Cups. Um, I drew up a list because I was thinking now with that newfound good faith, uh, understanding and feeling empowered to create a reality that I desired. I made a list of things because for a long time I didn't really have the capability to imagine what I wanted. It didn't feel real to want anything in particular. Um, all I really wanted was that unblockage. um, and then it was very harmonizing, humbling, calming, accepting. It was a feeling sort of like that, quelling. that the first desire, the true desire for how I want to live and who I want to be and how I want to live my life, was wanting to exist in that state of flow, from that openness and trust in connection with the universe around me. And that's what I desire for my life. So I believe that's what I'm going to create. So those are my thoughts for January about the King of Cups. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, press like and subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell if you'd like to see more videos. And tell me your thoughts. How do you see the King of Cups? And how do you relate to the idea of oneness and flow? Thank you for joining me. Bye.